Hey guys, Heavy Arms 45 here. Now, I've started this whole thing talking about Javo, my one of my biggest, highest level characters that I have in Pathfinder. Now, going back to Dungeons and Dragons, it it was a tough trying to get him to this level. Um, some of the stories I've already told y'all. One of the stories about how he had a party member die, and this one's going. I'm gonna talk about the problem of trying to have two sides to a party. Um, in the campaign, I told y'all before that to me the three main people that had been there, like the OG characters of the game, was the Gnoll, the Dwarf, Javo, and the Halfling. We have been there since the beginning of the whole thing when we started playing. And the problem was that we were, I guess I would say, the light part of the party. We always were open with each other. We actually trust each other enough that we bought a house together. So the Halfling had her own room, the Javo had his room, and the Gnoll had his room upstairs with his dog. And that's going to come into play in another story. So, well, possibly this story. So Javo thinking that, there's no problem with having us be a group together. I mean, living together. Not what shouldn't have been a problem at all. But we had a couple characters. We had a guy that I don't know what his real name was, but we always called him Monkey. Monkey played a lot of different dark characters. I think I said something about Monkey last time. Monkey was always this dark character. He always wore shrouds, or he was a tiefling. He always had this mysterious kind of like "don't trust me" vibe to how I always perceived his character. Basically, he always was not Batman, but more, I don't know what character to compare him to, but he looked like somebody you find trying to kill you. And even though I was lawful good and I'm not supposed to be okay with evil, and his character, even though, because I couldn't tell what his alignment was, couldn't look evil, I always gave him benefit of the doubt. And then we had another person who, her character was dark, and but she was a sorceress. Her sorceress was a part of the party. She came from another campaign that they had called the Evil Campaign. But in Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons, you have a thing called metagame, where you're not supposed to metagame. You don't use knowledge that you know out of game, in game. So I didn't know that her character came from Evil Campaign. I didn't know when I saw her in the first time that I was working in the Evil Campaign. I just thought I was helping some simple merchant, and it turned out no, you was helping someone else. You were helping these evil people try and gain power, but because it didn't work out, this character, this sorceress, suddenly becomes a part of our party. And in the whole situation, they are basically talking amongst each other, telling each other secrets and stuff like that, and keeping a lot of information from the Gnoll, the Dwarf, and the Halfling. And so the Gnoll, the Dwarf, and Halfling started looking at each other like, hey, they show keeping a lot of stuff to themselves. And it just created a very untrusting vibe. Well, about this point, Javo gained the ability to be able to do what they call Earth Sense. 10 feet around him, he was able to sense if there was somebody touching the ground. Even if they were invisible, he could do this. And so that's what there was a new character to the group that we don't know how he got here. The party didn't even care. We were like, oh, he said he wanted to venture with us, so we went ahead and let him venture with us. So he went on a venture with us. He was okay help. He wasn't like the Superman or Batman of the game. He was more like the Aquaman of the team. He came in and didn't really put a lot of work into it, but he was a newbie. We didn't expect him to come in just like beating everything down. But he got with the sorceress, and they started talking. And Javo trying to figure out why in the world is it that this character is basically hanged up on him. So Javo starts following them because Javo is also, I meant to tell you, during his time he joined the guard to help with his ability of being a dwarven defender. Because how can you be a defender if you're not defending anything? So I defended the law, and so I became a guard. So Javo starts following them. Well, Javo doesn't hide that he's following. He's a dwarf wearing full plate armor. The clanking would make to where you would know where he comes. So he just basically followed them. Well, she noticing that they follow. I will put it, narrate it this way. She turned the corner, cast invisibility on her and the other guy, and then proceeded to try and keep leaving. Well, Javo had boots of haste that allowed him to do double his movement speed, and Javo's movement speed with the armor that he was wearing was 30. So 30 feet around, so he doubled it to being 60 feet around. So he came up right close to where the last time he checked him out it did his thing, because it was a move action for him to sense if somebody was in the area. And if he noticed that somebody was in a certain direction, but he couldn't pinpoint exactly where they was towards him, but he knew that they were in that direction, he just kept following where he sensed that there was somebody supposedly there, but he didn't see a person. And he kept doing this until finally she shot an ice lance at him into his chest. He sees that it's her, and he arrests her. At her trial, Javo, being the epitome of judgmentship, well, not judgmentship, of lawlessness, he enforces the law and tells them everything that happened. And during the trial, everything seems to be going fine. And it looks like possibly she's about to get off because of reasons. But in the last second, and during the trial, when I find out that I'm getting ready as Javo, that she's probably don't get off on this, and she probably is going to try and kill me after this because I tried to follow her. Well, that's not what happened. She was found guilty. And when she was found guilty, they hung her about 3 days later. Out of game, the DM, she made a side deal with the DM that she could go ahead and keep her character in another world. But as this canon went on, her character died. Which, it's kind of like cheating death, but it's not, because kind of like your character is dead in this world, but when you start playing Pathfinder and stuff, your character, when one person says your character dead, that character is actually dead. It's like literally you have to build a new character, because this character is no longer, there's no such thing as I took an L and I came back. No, there's no continues. Your character is dead. But if you're DM, every character you have can have the same name and the same character. And that's kind of what Monkeys was like. They always were the same kind of character. They were all rogue. They all would try and stab you in the back. And he had, I don't know if I would call it a romantic feelings for her, but because Monkey saw that his comrade was now dead, he decides that he must take revenge for her. because she was killed because of this dwarf. He knew who Javo was. He'd been around Javo for a couple of fights outside of town. So he figured the best time to do it was to come into Javo's house with the halfling and the gnoll when they were asleep. So we've never had a house party for our house. We literally, what would happen was we would come back to town after adventuring and we would go to our house. We've never had anybody from our party in the house. So when we have this person teleport into our house that have never been there before, he teleports into Javo's room, and about I won't even say it. He's about an inch or two off the ground, which gives enough noise for Javo to wake up from making a listen check, or in Pathfinder perception check. So Javo makes a perception check, hears him, wakes up, gets the axe that's Javo, but since he's awake, that doesn't happen. And the halfling that's in her room on the other side of the wall hears this person in the house and hears a scuffle and comes in and helps the dwarf. The gnoll tries to come down, but just so happened that the floor was slippery, like he tried to come down, but he never made it down out of his room in time, because by the time he came down, Javo and the halfling had already knocked the person out, and we put him in jail. Now, he did get off. He left town, and the reason he got off was because, and I meant to say this for hers, there was a particular law that Talshandor had. It was the law of stupidity. All stupidity was punishable by death. If, for any reason, you did something that could be considered stupid, you technically could be killed. And one of the things, and the reason she was found guilty was because she was found guilty of stupidity. Because if you're going to do an attack to a guard and you leave him alive, you're stupid. So that was what happened with her. He was found to be innocent, well, guilty of it, but innocent at the same time, because he did it out of love for the person that was executed. So because of that, it was a crime of passion, so he was let go. And like I said, his character just left, and that was the end of that. And I think that's the end of this story. Catch me for the next one. Catch you later.